Gracias por estar aquí. Mi nombre es John Levy, analista político y comunicador. Miren, a mí me encanta ver los debates que tiene Candace Owens. Y principalmente en la plataforma de Piers Morgan. Porque entre otras cosas, por aquí, me gusta la manera en cómo ellos se manejan y al mismo tiempo los temas que tratan. Ustedes saben que yo he sido un crítico bastante abierto de las personas que se hacen víctimas por su color de piel, por su condición, por el lugar donde nacieron. Yo creo que hacerte la víctima es como un veneno que tú te bebes esperando que se muera el otro. Hacerte la víctima no solamente no te permitirá a ti avanzar en la vida, sino que no mandará un mensaje positivo de ninguna manera al que te rodea. Hacerse la víctima solamente atrasará en tu vida. Yo solamente creo que cuando nos hacemos responsables de nuestra vida y aprendemos a tirar para adelante, no importa qué, podemos avanzar. Vamos a ver cómo ellos ponen en check a este lousy, como se dice por ahí, este tipo que en vez de debatir con puntos de vista claros, se contradice él mismo en el mismo discurso de victimización y termina siendo humillado tanto por, vamos a decir que por Candace, porque Piers sirve como de árbitro, pero ustedes van a ver qué interesante intercambio. Vamos a reaccionar, va a haber subtítulos en pantalla.
This conversation. The conversation
you literally said race, you wanted to bring race up.
You did.
You literally said, I want to bring race up.
And this is my first time saying this out loud. But y'all think you're going to shame somebody or bully into voting for this? Oh, it's a shame that you're not supporting a black woman. She's not black.
She is black. And you're being particularly hypocritical, bro.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we have
Harvey white guys have met Harvey Weinstein.
Yes,
more people in Hollywood that are speaking out about what's happening.
Let me ask you,
there's a race piece to this too, though. Can we talk about the race piece to this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was literally about to ask you about that.
No,
so you go ahead, Mark, go on.
Because it's really fascinating here, right? So we're saying Diddy does this awful thing. Again, Diddy, despicable, monster. No defense of Diddy. We're asking all the prominent black people to speak out against it, right? But there is never a call for white people to denounce like no one says everybody who ever met Harvey, white guy who's ever met Harvey Weinstein needs to say something.
Mire la manera como Candace, que eso me gusta de ella, mantiene su paciencia. Escucha. Yo expliqué ayer la diferencia entre oír y escuchar. Ella escucha para poder responder de la manera correcta.
Yes, there was. Of course there was.
No.
Literally everyone who ever worked with him was asked to condemn it. And most of them rushed to do it.
Piers, I want you to listen to what I said again, because you just disagreed with a point I did not make. I didn't say that everyone in Hollywood was not challenged to address Weinstein. I said there's a race piece to this. And people, by virtue of being black, are asked to denounce Diddy because they're supposed to be representing blackness in the black community. I'm saying that white people, by virtue of their whiteness. No. That's exactly what Candace said. That's exactly what Candace just said.
I said, no, Mark,
Candace, not you.
I'm not saying every black person has to comment on it because they're black. I'm saying I've been struck by the fact there is a massively smaller number of high-profile black celebrities who have spoken out comparative to what happened when Weinstein went down. So you're right that there is a race element to this, but it's the reverse one. Hang on. Let me finish. It's the reverse point to the one you're making. It actually is skewed against the white guy. He got more of a lambasting from celebrities than the black guy who's done arguably worse stuff.
I wish I had the same race goggles. It's amazing, Mark, that you always see a race angle here. The reason why I specifically called out LeBron James and these types is because they themselves are wearing the same race goggles. They purport to be the superheroes in the black community that every time there's some sort of a social injustice playing out against the black victim, they use their platforms to speak out about it because they say, oh, it's so unfair that black people are not being believed. It's so unfair. Hashtag George Floyd, hashtag this person. So if you are going to assert yourself as a leader when black people make claims before they're proven in court, this might be a good time to do it when you have a man who had so much power in Hollywood and you just have an onslaught of black art.
Creo que el ejemplo más claro de eso es LeBron James, que creo que lo mencionan en la entrevista. Yo no lo he visto fragmentos, no lo he visto completa. LeBron James es una persona que él se cree el superhéroe de las causas de race cause en los Estados Unidos. Inmediatamente pasó lo de George Floyd y él salió hablar la víctima eterna, un tipo sumamente multimillonario. Lo están criticando por un anuncio de Nike donde desperdicia comida. Eso tal vez lo veremos en otro video. Cada causa que pasa que hay una persona negra envuelta donde supuestamente se le violan los derechos, sale un tal LeBron James a creerse superhéroe. Pero en este caso de Diddy, donde él ha sido mencionado directamente, donde hay múltiples fotos donde él se ve en los freak ups de Diddy, extrañamente él no habla. Está calladito. Y creo que a eso ellos se refieren específicamente.
Artists coming out saying that they were victimized by him, it might be a good time to use your platform. I'm calling out the hypocrisy and the double standard of that. If LeBron James had kept his mouth shut on every
Precisamente. Mírenlo ahí.
other issue and said nothing, I wouldn't be like, hey, why is LeBron James being quiet on this issue? I'd say he doesn't typically weigh in on anything, so it wouldn't make sense to put pressure on him to do it. That would be the scenario in which what you are saying would make sense. It's the exact opposite. I'm saying keep the exact same energy that you have had on every other black issue when it comes to your door and it pertains to a friend of yours that you were partying with. I think that's pretty sensible.
Yeah. Mark, okay. Where is just...
Do you mind if I respond to that?
Sure,
because I just, there are 3 points that were made that I'd like to respond to. First thing is, I'm rejecting the narrative that I've introduced race into this conversation. The conversation
you literally said race, you wanted to bring race up.
You did.
Literalmente. Es lo que te estoy diciendo. Esa es la izquierda. Mira, yo reaccioné hace media hora, o una hora tal vez, al town hall de Kamala Harris en Pensilvania de CNN. Y ese es el problema, la contradicción entre los liberales. Yo quiero hablar de una cosa si me conviene, pero si no me conviene, yo no quiero hablar de eso. Y si me atacan mucho, me voy. Ya se acabó la conversación. Este señor literalmente hace algunos 3 minutos dijo que quería introducir race, que es race, la raza, en la conversación. Y ahora que no le conviene, no, yo no quiero hablar de raza. Oh, ahora no te conviene, ahora tú no quieres.
You literally started the conversation about race.
You did it.
All right, I'm going to ask you to allow me to finish a sentence uninterrupted the way you have Candace. Then you can hear why you're actually not correct. Hear what I'm saying. When I said I want to bring race into this, it was in response to the point that Candace had made 5 minutes prior. When you watch this on TV, y'all, or on YouTube, rewind, and you'll see this. When she said LeBron James has spoken out for the black community, right? And historically, but isn't saying anything here. That was the first time that race was mentioned. My invocation of race was in response to that. And as you conceded just a moment ago, when you disagreed with me, you were saying that you weren't asking all, you were saying that there's a relatively lower response from the black community on this issue than prior issues.
Not black community. Not black community. High profile celebrities.
Black celebrities. Fair enough.
It's a much smaller part of the community.
I agree with you, but the fundamental point here is when I said I'm introducing race, it was to respond to a claim that was already racialized around LeBron James 5 to 10 minutes prior. Now, to actually address the issue that I was responding to because I didn't introduce race into the conversation, the idea here for me is when Harvey Weinstein does something...
No sense. No, si yo quiero responder, yo traigo el tema de race, de la raza, para responder ahí, pero después de eso, no traigamos esos temas, yo nada más lo traje para responder esa pregunta, eso no tiene sentido. Este tipo acaba de decir un nonsense. Eso es una estupidez, man.
Hollywood has to respond. When Diddy does something, black people have to respond. Now, I happen to believe that as a black person with a public platform, an athlete, an actress, or a journalist, we should respond to the Diddy thing. I don't think that we should ignore our responsibility.
What are you complaining about?
I'm okay. But my complaint is that when black people don't do it, we are criticized differently than when the white guy doesn't do it.
Hang on. Mark, I'm sorry, but the idea that people were running around asking random white people in the street about Harvey Weinstein is ridiculous. They're not doing it.
I didn't say that.
And they're not doing it with random black people in the street either.
I didn't say that.
I'm talking.
That's a straw man. That is a straw man.
No, it's not. The straw man argument is
random white people.
No, you are conflating.
I didn't say random white people.
Yo no he entendido nunca tampoco por qué que... Y eso se ve constantemente a la izquierda. Yo no sé por qué para tú demostrar un punto de vista tú tienes que gritar y ponerte así histérico. Ese señor le va a dar algo. Porque hay gente que entiende que hablando más rápido, hablando más alto y gritando, ellos tienen la razón. No tiene la razón el que grite más alto. No tiene la razón el que más grite. Es el que utilice mejor argumentos. Y mientras más pausado, mientras más se te entienda, mejor el argumento. No así. A mí me da dolor de cabeza. Yo veo estos debates con fines educativos, con fines de que lo tratemos nosotros aquí. Pero eso no está correcto actuar así.
Okay. I said white people in Hollywood.
Hang on.
I said white people in Hollywood.
Yo tengo el video adelantado a 1.25. Y miren cómo, a pesar de estar a 1.25, cuando habla Piers Morgan o Candace, se ve a una velocidad normal, pero este tipo parece que va como a 500 por hora.
People in the street.
I understand, but I'm deliberately I'm conflating two things.
That's not the same.
I'm conflating
I know you are.
high-profile black celebrities and high-profile white celebrities and how they responded to Weinstein and to Diddy, and it's been very different. The volume of white celebrities who denounced Weinstein was far higher than it's been with Diddy.
And my response to that is, when Weinstein happens, people didn't say, hey, where are the high-profile white Hollywood celebrities? What they said is, where are the high-profile celebrities? Where are the Hollywood types? They were asking Will Smith as much as they were asking Heidi Klum. When it comes to Diddy, they're only asking for black people.
Well, hang on, Candace, hang on. Again, Mark.
Hang on, I didn't finish the sentence yet. Let me finish the sentence before you disagree with it.
You're wrong.
Piers.
Candace literally mentioned Ashton Kutcher, who last time I checked is a white guy.
To mention Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher's white.
Okay.
He's white.
Again, I want you to hear what I'm actually saying, and I want you to actually hear what I'm saying and disagree with what I'm saying and not what I'm not saying. The conversation about Harvey Weinstein, and I challenge you to show me any piece of evidence where you called out and said, hey, I'd love to hear from some high-profile white celebrities. You never said white. You just said high-profile celebrities. Maybe to you, Hollywood just means white. But in general, the idea here for Weinstein was we want his peers to speak out. We want his peers to say something. We want white people, black people, we just want his peers to say something. But when black people don't do it, it is framed as some kind of specific or unique moral failure, and that's the idea that I'm challenging here. Again, I want everybody to speak out against both of those monsters.
Okay.
But I'm saying let's not treat one differently than the other.
With respect, the slight flaw is that Candace actually said LeBron and Ashton Kutcher. And last time I checked, Ashton Kutcher, and this may not be the case, but I believe he still identifies as a white guy.
Last I checked, you're not Candace Owens. Last I checked, you're not Candace Owens. I'm criticizing you right now, Piers, not Candace Owens. So you can't say, well, Candace said it. Y'all are not a buddy comedy here. I'm critiquing your approach and coverage of this conversation. Right. And you can't say, well, Candace said it. I didn't disagree with Candace. I disagree with you on that particular point.
Okay. Okay, let's take a little beat.
I do want to say, you can't say,
Candace?
I don't think you could say, I would like to introduce race, and then 30 seconds later say, I did not introduce race. I mean, the records will show you definitely introduced race. And I brought up LeBron James, and for a very specific reason, because he was quite literally at the parties, and because he's used his platform to speak out on black victimization, not because he was black. I was pointing out the astounding hypocrisy. I didn't say, let's talk about LeBron James because he's a black man. I mean, I would have brought up tons of other black people and said, where are their voices? But it wouldn't have made sense because they don't hang out with him and they don't use their platforms. And I did bring up Ashton Kutcher as well, and very many other celebrities. I'm pretty sure Chrissy Teigen is not black. She's Asian. So I'm completely confused, completely lost at what point you were trying to make there. I do think that you do tend to see things through the vein of race, because when people are just making a sound point about why it is that there is some interest in LeBron James' silence right now. And I think he should speak out.
Hay un movimiento muy popular en los Estados Unidos. Se llama Black Lives Matters. Usted lo ha escuchado. Es una manera de pensar atrasada, racista, donde desde la premise del nombre, desde la creación del nombre, estamos hablando de exclusión. La vida de los negros no importa. La vida de todo el mundo importa. No solamente Black Lives Matters. Pero lo que pasa con la izquierda constantemente es que ellos no quieren derechos, ellos quieren privilegios. Y cuando tú quieres que creen privilegio para ti, significa que un privilegio para ti es una restricción para mí. Si tú puedes ir en una zona de un autobús, tienes el privilegio de ir ahí. Y aunque el autobús esté lleno, yo no puedo entrar porque tú tienes el privilegio por ser negro en ir a esa parte del autobús. Eso significa que a mí me están quitando un derecho. Sepa eso. Todo privilegio de una persona es un derecho a otra. Un privilegio que yo veo bien. Aquí en los Estados Unidos y en muchas partes del mundo hay zonas de parqueo exclusivo para gente handicap. Para gente que tiene una condición física especial. Yo veo bien ese privilegio porque esa es gente que fue a la guerra, que tuvo accidentes, que son viejitos, lo que sea. Yo veo bien ese privilegio. Me están quitando un espacio de parqueo, siguen quitándome un espacio de parqueo, pero yo lo veo bien porque es una persona que necesita ese privilegio. Ahora, cuando tú me hablas a mí de por tú ser negro o tú ser de la comunidad LGTB, a ti te van a dar un préstamo en el banco solo por tú ser negro o ser de la comunidad LGTB, tú me estás quitando un derecho a mí para darle ese privilegio a esa persona. Porque yo merezco ese préstamo tanto como tú. Tú no te mereces ese privilegio solo por tú. Que reparations. Señores, estamos hablando de algo que pasó hace 200 años y darle dinero a una persona, batata privilegios, batata reparaciones, tú le estás dando un privilegio a una persona sobre mí, sobre hechos que ni siquiera pasaron en mi tiempo. El rol del gobierno es crear las condiciones para que todos seamos iguales ante la ley. Tengamos los mismos derechos y las mismas responsabilidades. Los mismos privilegios, pero las mismas responsabilidades. No solamente todo hablando de, race, porque yo soy negro, porque yo soy LGTB, yo soy latino, soy un inmigrante. Yo podría utilizar la carta de race. Yo podría utilizar la carta de, soy una minoría en los Estados Unidos. Demen. No. Hay venezolanos y dominicanos, pero mayoritariamente venezolanos que utilizan su ventaja que le da el gobierno para estar hospedados en hoteles 5 estrellas aquí en Downtown en New York. Eso es un privilegio. Yo no utilizo el hecho de que soy un inmigrante para eso. Porque no soy una víctima. Me niego a ser una víctima. Yo no creo en los food stamps. Yo no creo en el alquiler de renta controlada para gente que no lo necesita. Para el que lo necesita, sí. Entonces, esta gente siempre habla de lo mismo.
Because he had a friendship there and because he reports that he cares so much about black victimization and there was a long list of black victims.
Right, Mark,
I think it's very sound. You can disagree with it.
Yeah. Mark, before you respond, Mark,
I agree with the point that you're making, Candace.
Candace ain't wrong here when she talks about LeBron James. This is a guy who's been pictured there, who's praised at Diddy's parties, who's been pictured in dresses and little girls' clothes. And someone also who is very quick to stand on his high horse and talk down to people every time they do something wrong in social media. He's very pro-cancel culture, and now he's quiet, completely crickets on this stuff. Diddy is somebody that the black community has praised. I'm sorry. Let's get back to it.
You've also, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said that there wouldn't have been the attention on the raid at Diddy's home, for example, if he'd been a white rapper. To which I would say, if that had been Eminem at the height of his powers,
say that again. I didn't hear you.
I believe you said before in a previous debate or interview that there wouldn't have been the same attention that was given to the raid on Diddy's home if it had been a white rapper. To which I would say
that.
You didn't say that?
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
What did
Me gusta esta parte, yo la vi. Me gusta el fact check que le hacen ahora. Y mira cómo él después de la respuesta, mira lo que le hace.
So, you can disagree with that point too, but you wouldn't be disagreeing with me.
Okay.
But feel free to make your Eminem argument.
So apparently on the documentary, well, just to clarify, on the documentary with TMZ, that's what I'm told is where you said that.
It's hard for me to imagine that had this been many other celebrities, particularly white celebrities, that their children would have been in handcuffs and they would have been forced to stare down the barrel of guns and seen armored tanks. It just seemed like a lot for a raid of a music producer. Right, I know the documentary you're referencing. I wish you would have watched it with all due respect, and then you would know I didn't say that. I'll tell you what I said. Yeah. What I did say was, not the attention. Diddy is an international superstar. Black, white, red, or yellow, we should be watching Diddy. And there's no reason why race is playing into the why of why we're watching it. That had nothing to do with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about was the actual nature of the raid. Typically, unless you believe, and this is what I was arguing at the time, unless you believe that Diddy was an armed threat, there was no need to handle his children, who were not at the time charged with anything, in the way that they did. There was no reason to have SWAT, almost like the National Guard is full military infrastructure to do this. I think they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't have raided the house. I'm not saying they shouldn't have arrested Diddy. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that what my comparison is, they wouldn't have done that to Mark Cuban. That's my point. But there's now as more evidence comes out.
Hang on. Mark, hang on. On that point, you said they wouldn't have done it to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is a massive celebrity in America. If he had been doing what we now know from this charge sheet against P. Diddy he's accused of doing, damn right they'd have done that to Mark Cuban. These are not like small.
Done what?
These are not small allegations.
Done what?
Well, have you read the charge?
What?
Have you read the charge sheet against Diddy? You know what he's accused of.
That's not what I'm disagreeing. Again,
you're saying the nature of the raid would not have been as over the top if it had been Mark Cuban because he's a white guy, right? Is that what you said?
I actually don't think it's quite that simple. I think the rapper part of it has a lot to do with it. I think they might have done that to Eminem. That's what I'm saying. It's not purely racial. I'm saying.
Well, what is the point you're making? I don't really understand it.
I promise you, just pro tip here, journalist to journalist. If you let me finish the sentence, you'll completely get what I'm saying.
Always up for journalistic pro tip.
what I'm saying is that with Diddy, as opposed to say Mark Cuban, just to use that example, there's an assumption that even if Mark Cuban is committing awful acts, or Harvey Weinstein, we don't need tanks. We don't need to tie his children up and make them sit outside, because there's no reason to believe that those children are going to do harm. There is a default assumption that there's going to be a level of danger attached to Diddy that aren't even consistent with the charges. Again, he's a monster, right? But they don't usually break into homes with tanks and machine guns for child molesters. Even though child molesters are the worst people in the world.
Well,
because there's no reason to believe they're going to be cloned out with AR-15s.
It depends how many guns they think the person has, I would imagine. Candace, back to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring up a friend of mine, James O'Keefe, who got braided by the feds and had guns pointed at him over a diary, Ashley Biden's diary. They didn't even publish. He's a white guy, had nothing to do with anything, and eventually was not found guilty. So this is the way that they act during raids. Regarding his children, if you read the initial lawsuit with Lil Rod, there was a very credible allegation, which Lil Rod made, that he was there the night that Puffy Diddy, whatever his name is today, that his son was involved in the shooting that was in the bathroom. So it was obviously understandable that they may have thought, given the allegations, that his son had something to do with it. His son was listed all throughout the lawsuit. So when they were raiding them, they were probably also raiding the sons as well. That was my immediate assumption when I saw it. But I do think it's completely absurd to suggest that there was any sort of rapper or black motivation behind the raid. Like I said, James O'Keefe is a perfect example when they did not have anything. They had no reason to raid James O'Keefe in the manner that they did. And they did while he was in his boxers at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and they put they put guns to his head. So I just completely dispute.
Yeah, James O'Keefe, who Candace is talking about, the guy got raided and arrested. And this was, I think, for the Ashley Biden story about her diary, which she said about Joe in there. Get it.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to...
Yo lo voy a dejar hasta aquí, porque en la segunda parte, lo que viene la discusión de si Kamala es india o no es india, o ta. Vamos a dejarlo ahí, pero... Déjenme usted saber en comentarios si se tiene razón en estos casos. Si realmente la raza en los Estados Unidos es utilizada, el day, ser llamado day en los Estados Unidos es utilizado para privilegio. Porque, una pregunta, ¿por qué Kamala Harris tiene que ser tomado en cuenta que ella es blanca, que ella es de la comunidad negra para que sea vicepresidenta o presidenta? Eso no debería ser. Ni en Estados Unidos ni en ninguna parte del mundo debería ser relevante que tú seas de una comunidad, o seas alto, o seas pequeño, o hables español, o hables... Digo, eso sí, los idiomas sí. Para que tú ocupes un cargo de ningún tipo o tengas una función de ningún tipo. Cuando empecemos a eliminar esos privilegios, como dije del principio, que la gente cree que tiene por ser de una minoría o por ser de un país, creo que las cosas deberían ser mejor. Podría ser mejor. Para ocupar un cargo público o una empresa o lo que sea, lo que se tiene que tomar en cuenta son tus competencias. Punto. Si tú puedes hacer el trabajo bien, si tienes desenvolvimiento, para eso es que se estudia. No que yo soy de la comunidad y yo me merezco el trabajo. No, o soy negro, no, o soy india, o soy americana y merezco ser vicepresidenta. No. O porque yo soy Diddy y soy millonario, me puedo salir con la mía. No. Tiene que ser por tu competencia. Y si cometes un delito, debes ser apresado independientemente si eres un rico multimillonario, negro, blanco, mamey, como sea, preso. Déjame saber qué opinas en comentarios. Hola, mi nombre es John Levy, analista político y comunicador. Muchísimas gracias por llegar al final de este contenido. Recuerda suscribirte, comentar y compartir, y sobre todo activar la campanita de notificaciones para que te llegue cada vez que subimos un video. Leemos todos los comentarios y sobre todo recuerda ampliar estas y otras informaciones en mi página web johnlevy.com, las noticias como son. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, donde quiera que esté. Un abrazo grande y hasta pronto.